want to. You don't gotta do it if you don't want to. You don't gotta do it if you don't want to. It's just a suggestion. Come on.
We're here again.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Well, welcome back to the conversation. I'm Psych. Joining me as always is Letter K, and we're going to continue our conversation as K delicately balances the bottle of whiskey to get the perfect amount for, what are you doing there, K?
So I decided that this rye is probably best done in the classic sense. We don't have club soda, but the CO2 sparkled water from your soda stream. And now I'm going to spend this episode pretending that I am Philip Marlowe. Kind of looks like a beer.
Or an apple cider, apple juice. Well, cheers. So today we are going to be continuing our conversation involving workplace relationships. Interpersonal skills are going to be paramount as one has moved past the initial stages. They're done with the onboarding. They're done with getting into their position. They're done with learning what is expected of them. Now the expectation is they perform their job and they navigate through all the interactions and interpersonal, all the engagements that they have with their colleagues versus their supervisors. We're going to compare and contrast those and hopefully provide some helpful and useful information.
You don't need to make friends, but you do need to be friendly.
Yes.
You need to be likable. We talked about that. And one of the biggest ways to create longevity in your professional environment is to bond in some kind of way. At any layer. I spent most of my grocery career in management, and I spent a little bit of time when I was young trying to be a part of the general the clique, the baggers, the cashiers, the regular employees. Not super successful. I mean, a little bit, but not super successful. However, there was always, like, whenever I went to trade shows or training, I was always most comfortable in those environments because it was all people at my layer, especially in middle management. Like, we had these things, and it was just a training, 2-day training, and it was just a sea of mid-level managers. And those were the best times for me to be able to hang out with people who had similar life experiences professionally. And it's like that with regular, because if you're a cashier, everyone knows how working Thanksgiving Day is it sucks. So you have that shared experience, and shared work experience is one of the ways that you can bond easily because you're already doing the job.
Yes. So
share those experiences with the people around you. It's an immediate way to ingratiate yourself, in my opinion. You had this bad day at work. I've had that bad day at work. We're sharing this experience. Mm-hmm. Hey, are we best friends now? We might be.
People tend to find and take advantage of opportunities to commiserate with one another. I would say that trend goes up with jobs and careers that are more demanding. Attorneys, or more specialized. Attorneys, doctors, people that are in very niche and narrow, specialized career or jobs, careers or jobs where only the people that are in those professions know what goes on in those jobs. For example, if you're on some oil derrick somewhere doing that, you're probably not going to run into the average person that understands what you go through to do that job on a daily basis, because it's not common knowledge. It's not something everyone is aware of.
Well, so I agree, but I think that it's universal. One of the things that I always encountered in groceries was the person who thought they knew how to do my job. And they were always so far off the mark that it was humorous.
Are these people that are merely observing from the outside looking in, or are these people that had done that job or a similar job and are making assumptions from there?
No, it's customers mostly. You know.
Oh,
But-
customers.
Yeah. So,
No
you,
way.
You always get people who are like, how hard is this? You're just selling groceries. And like, you know what? I can tell you've never tried it.
Get out of here.
Yeah. Or people, or used to get people who would be like, I did this kind of work when I was a kid, and it just it seems like you should be better at it. I'm like, okay, what kind of work did you do? And it's like they had a fast food job. And I know that at that moment, I know they have no idea what they're talking about, because I've never had a fast food job and I have no idea how that works. And so I know for a fact that just because they work some shitty job at their local burger joint doesn't mean they know a single thing about groceries.
I was watching a movie on my couch, and there was somebody in the film who worked at a hardware store, and so now I thus know how work at hardware stores
That's how my
happens.
job is now, because I do commercial AV, and everybody who's ever hooked up their own DVD player thinks they can do commercial AV. And it's just so absurd. So yes, and the frustration that surrounds that dynamic, that people, you're doing something that seems simple, but is definitely a trained skill. And people were like, oh, I could do that.
Maybe they used to shop at Circuit City,
Yeah.
and so they know.
No, I've literally gotten into arguments with scientists where they're like, how come you can't keep this going? I mean, I never have trouble with my VCR at my house. And it's like, you have one box plugged into a TV. Do you not realize that this box goes into this box, that goes into this box that has a cable that goes 65 feet up this ramp here into a thing that processes it, and then it goes in reverse to this projector that goes to this screen. It's like, they are not the same. But you don't understand that unless you know.
Okay. Yeah. Well, customers aside, somebody who's now entrenched in their new career, their new job, what would you say are the top 3 things that they should do? Or if you want to give me a top 5 or a top 10, or you just go as, speak as long or as little as you want about it. How can somebody be successful in their new pursuit in the workplace that they find themselves in?
I think the number one way is to use the job as a springboard to communicating and building relationships. It's shared work experience. The one thing that you have in common with everybody there is the job. So start there. Start with that. The shared frustrations, the mutual support, the things that you all are there. You're there to get paid to do. You all have insights, opinions, and thoughts on those things. It's a great icebreaker. It's a great way to continue communication. I can talk about groceries with the grocery clerk forever because it's what we did. It's what we do, right? That's the number one thing. The next thing I would say is, if you start getting a little bit deeper into learning people, start building some bonds and stuff. If you got people that you feel you can trust, that they're not just a smiling hyena grinning in your face, waiting to throw you under the bus so that they can use you as a stepping stone to get ahead. If you've separated those people, the bad beans from the bunch, then you can start getting into a little bit deeper. What are your interests? They mention the movie. You talk about movies. They mention the song. You talk about music. Then you start getting into the idea of social activities. They don't necessarily have to leave work to do that. However, they're a great way to maintain some kind of rapport that has positive effects on your relationship and of course, positive work environment. Besides, the number 3, the big one, is mutual disdain.
The negative thing is going to keep people
Yes.
together.
You-
That
you-
bond is going to be enhanced with it.
It's like going to war. We are all banding together to engage in this thing that nobody wants to be a part of, but we're all a band of brothers. You know, supermarkets were like gangs when I was doing it. You know, we used to be like, you know, fuck Safeway, fuck Rayleigh's, you know, and then like my wife used to get so mad because we used to go to karaoke night at a bar. Walking home, we'd walk home, you know, and then walking home, it was like half a mile away. We'd pass by a 24-hour Safeway. We'd go in and get snacks, and I would go through and I would push in the facings. The people were trying to set the store for the next day, trying to make it clean, and I would go mess them up, mess up the pasta aisle or something. You know, but it was because, you know, we were like gangs, you know, and I would go back and I would tell that story, and everyone would high fives all around because we had a disdain for the competition. It also, and as I got older and as I moved up, I found that people were using me as a way to bond, because you know you can also have a mutual disdain for company policy, for the bureaucratic concepts of your organization. You can hate the boss together. These things bring you closer. How are we going to do our job and enjoy doing our job and do better than this schmuck over here who's telling us to do it the wrong way? We're bonding over this. Those are the big three.
Kind of a side tangent on your last point there. I was listening to
Pushing in the Safeway facings? Oh, yeah. My wife used to get so mad.
I was listening to Joe Rogan's podcast, and he had Andrew Huberman, who's a neuroscientist, Stanford University. Anyway, he was on there, and he was citing a study, and I'll have to look it up later. Maybe I can put it in the description of this particular episode later. But basically, they had a relatively small size or small sample of people, and they were able to stimulate specific portions of the brain. Make somebody feel good, make somebody feel sleepy, make somebody feel hungry, make somebody feel tired, make somebody feel pleasure, make somebody feel angry, frustrated. And
without drugs, I know people who would pay to hook up to that one.
The amongst all of the sample group, the sensation, the feeling, the emotion that they wanted to feel the most, that they had the greatest response to and wished to have repeated, was frustration and anger.
Yeah, because it's such a great bonding agent.
They felt good. They liked it enough to request it. They wanted to revisit it. And that kind of holds true when we see what goes on social media and this and that. People love to complain.
People love to complain. People love looking for problems so they can complain about them. Mm-hmm. And if you can get into a group or a community that has your same disdain for this thing, it's just so much more rewarding. And it's like that in the work environment.
It is. It is. So I asked ChatGPT what were some of the things that would help people build positive relationships in the workplace. And it comprised a list that was kind of a culmination of things that came from Harvard Business Review, Forbes, Society for Human Resource Management, Career Development Publications, and Psychology Today. Kind of put them all together and gave us 10.
Rattle them off.
Be approachable and friendly. Listen actively. Offer help and support. Communicate clearly. Be respectful. Network actively. Follow through on commitments. Seek feedback. Show appreciation. And maintain professionalism.
That's a really good list. I know now that I do those things. And I know now that I did not always do those things. But like, that is like, that reads almost like the benchmark of how I try to mentor my guys to do their jobs. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And some people are exceptional at maybe 2 or 3 of those things. But to be great at all 10 of those things 100% of the time while you are in the workplace environment is unreasonable to ask of anyone, because you're not going to be in the right mood. You're not going to have enough rest. You're going to have personal life distracting you from your professional life. There's things that are going because we're human.
Yes.
Things are going to come up, and you're going to have deficiencies in these on any given day for some of the things I just mentioned.
I think that the best thing that you can do if you are trying to call these the 10 commandments of better relationship building in the workplace. If you do find yourself tired or angry or something's wrong, what I find, and I coach this at work, is hey, we're not always in a good mood. Sometimes we're in a bad mood. Sometimes we can't really. So we think that saying one thing is going to be a good idea, and then we know later that it wasn't. My favorite thing is that people do not expect an immediate answer. You can pause anytime you want to say something. And if you know you're going into something in a bad mood, utilize that technique. When somebody replies and your first response is, "Oh, you fucking moron. Are you serious? You're hella dumb." Just calm down. Calm down. Take a breath and think. Use, 10? Maintaining professionalism. That's the biggest one. And if you can maintain professionalism, if you can tell yourself to take the ego out of a situation, you can do those other 9.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I connect with that one with a critical writing class of all things that I've had in my past. A critical writing class I took, and the professor mentioned that some of the greatest authors, they will pen something or type something, a manuscript, a draft, and then they will take that and they'll just put it away.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that resting period, that time of separation from their piece, whether it's a week, a month, whether it's years in many cases. From some of the best writers, they'll open up the file cabinet and they'll pull this out, and it enables them to read things with a fresh pair of eyes. They can look at it and review it almost as if, who wrote this?
Yeah.
Where you can assess it from there and be objective. And I know I've applied that to my professional life, because as skilled as I am working with people who in the moment I may be of the opinion that they are wrong or incorrect, and I want to correct them immediately with a keyboard and an email. And in many cases, I just have to let that sit in my as a draft. I have deleted probably more emails than I have sent, because if I'm emotional about it, or if I'm not in the greatest mood, if I know I'm angry or frustrated or upset, I know I'm not thinking the clearest. And if I'm to maintain my professionalism with the way I'm communicating, with others, then no, I have to just let that go. All right, this email doesn't need to be sent, or this email needs to be sent without that paragraph or those lines. I need to edit it, or have somebody else read it, or just, I'm just going to go talk to them, and that will work better.
I walk away from emails all the time, because I use words as a weapon, and it's not always a benefit. How is this going to affect your relationship? Because it's not just your immediate coworkers, right? Now you're talking about networking. How am I going to affect my relationship with this person who's pissing me off because they're getting in my lane and they're doing shit they're not supposed to be doing, but I still need to work with that person. I need to work with their organization. Am I going to completely shut this door by sending this snarky, half-cocked email? Yeah, I walk away from emails all the time. I get up, I walk away. Back when it was just me, Rod, and Juice, we used to have read each other's emails and be like, "No, bro, you can't send that." Mm-hmm.
Especially if you're the new guy.
Yeah.
If you're the newbie and you just got there, and if you're not certain of all of these workplace relationships that are have pre-existed you, if you don't know of all their connections, if you don't know that guy golfs with that guy every month or every week, if you don't know that this person goes out with this person for drinks every Friday after work, if you don't know that, like, you might not have enough information to inform the communication that you're about to send out that could end up ruining your work life.
And if you're the new guy, you don't understand the workplace dynamic. Great example. Job I have now, like I said, I started as an intern, and I came out of groceries. And in groceries, if you are standing still, you are losing. You're losing the battle. So I had that instilled into me after 16 years. And retail is this, go, money, money, money. I came to this place, and it was much more relaxed. I was not prepared for it. And I came in wanting to just go and go and go. And one of the guys that I used to work with, he pulled me aside one day. Well, he didn't pull me aside. He said it in front of everybody, but it wasn't malicious. He was just like, hey, I know that where you came from was completely different, but we're all in a boat here. We're all in a boat, and there's only one paddle. So get in the boat. Calm down.
Calm down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that where you got it from?
No.
Calm
Maybe,
down came before that.
Maybe, I don't know.
Okay.
But he illustrated that I was not being a part of the team. I was trying to change things. I was trying to manipulate the environment to suit how I was used to doing things. And I was the outlier. I was the one guy. And when it came to whether or not I was going to be picked up as a full-time employee, they had negative opinions about whether or not they wanted to work with me because of that personality quirk, because I did not click with the organization. I've since mellowed, and now and it's funny, I'm actually scheduled to meet with a guy from a sister organization next week, and he's me 8 years ago.
Oh yeah.
And I know how this is going to go. He's got he wants to change so many things. He wants to bring us into the modern age, and he wants to do all this stuff. And he needs to understand that the reason he wants to do these things is because they're what he's used to. They're not necessarily better. They might be better, but they're not the way the organization operates. And if he's going to be successful, he needs to be part of that. He can find his ways to improve our processes, but he can't start with you guys are all screwing up, and here's how this would be better. Mm-hmm. And that's how I was, and that's how he is now. Yeah.
So I had the opportunity last year to work with me, 20 years younger.
Yeah.
And was faced with someone who was intelligent and educated and smart and quick and sharp and just wanted to change everything because and felt that way because they were so many years everyone else's so many years younger. They were so many years their junior, right? That they wanted to, and they could do as much as they were currently doing. Everyone else was currently achieving at this level, and so were they. But they were 10, 20 years younger than they were. And just like, I got this. Yeah. Like I'll take the lead. I'm almost better than you. You are almost obsolete. Just let me do it because. Yeah. And that's not a good way to ingratiate yourself with a new team. That's not a way to avoid conflict. That's a path for it.
When I was a very young manager, my first entry management role, I was transferred to a store, and I will never forget. And at the time, I was like, "Hey, screw you, lady." But I've since reevaluated that encounter, and something in the check stand. I cannot remember the particulars, but I was like, "Hey, you need to do it like this, this, and this." And it was not the way things were done. I learned that later. It was, everyone did it. It was just outside of the box. And she looked up at me and she said, "Hey, I'm older than you are, so I know better." And But it wasn't that
Wow.
it wasn't the fact that she was older and knew better. Honestly, what it was is she'd been there longer and she knew how things worked in the organization. I was trying to do something that nobody else was doing. So there's something to be said for picking your battles. You know, that's a big thing with me, picking your battles. Yes, you can improve on the process. Yes, you can find better ways to do things. Yes, you can have good ideas. But you can't change everything.
I think one thing I would add to this list is be willing to admit you're wrong.
Oh, yeah.
I think if you can be a strong enough person to show weakness, admit that you were wrong, admit that you made a mistake, admit that you made a wrong turn, I think that is one way to build a bridge to another
Yes,
person.
one of I try to teach this now. I didn't know it when I was younger, but I try to teach this now. If you can't admit to your own mistakes, you will never be able to forgive the mistakes in others. And that's just pure and simple. And that's just going to distance you from everyone. If you can't be like, oh, it's taking the ego out. Oh, yeah, you know what? I was wrong.
You have to have a certain amount of self-awareness.
Yeah.
You have to be
tough.
introspective. You have to be reflective. You have to take the time and examine yourself first. Like look at yourself first, and then once you've figured out who you are, then you can start to get a better sense of, oh, this is what I brought to that interaction, and this is how I influenced that going this way or that.
And once you're able to do that, you're going to find that you can get along with a bigger swath of people.
So, if someone wants to remain at their job, they're going to have to get through conflict. It's inevitable, right? Especially if you're working on a team. If you have one goal, we know there's multiple ways to skin a cat.
And
So,
I've resolved conflict both correctly and horribly wrong in my life.
as have I. And that adds to who we are as professionals. So take a look at this, and then we can comment on it afterwards.
So if I see the team having interpersonal conflict or issues, I'll usually talk to each of the two people individually first to get, her side, his side, and then I'll usually chew on it for a second, kind of walk around in both of their shoes, and then usually I'll get agreement on both of those. Like, do you think it'd be better if we talked about this, together? But my first intention is I will give them the words that I think they should use with one another without leaving the room. If they can't resolve it that way, then I think we would come in as third-party mediator, and then usually it has to be more like a papa talk of like, big picture, this is where we're trying to go. These are the values that the company stands for. Where are we having conflicts here? What is the problem that we need to solve? The very worst case scenario is these are the conditions under which you guys need to work together. If Johnny gives you the materials in this way, Sam, is that acceptable to you? Yes. Johnny, if Sam interacts with you in this way and he says it this way, are you good with that? Yes. If they both adhere to those principles, trust ends up getting rebuilt and then mutual respect. And we don't need everybody to like one another, but we need everyone to respect one another.
So, yes, obviously he works for a small company because you're not allowed to do what he said in a larger company. It's against the law. You have to kick it to HR basically. But I liked how he talked about conflict resolution because that's what HR is going to do. Is yes, we had a problem. We do have to figure out how to work together. How are we going to do that? And communications, communication. I just had a couple of guys go, and I went through this exact same thing. And I do try to resolve things without getting the bosses involved. If somebody comes to me with a story, okay, do I need to get involved? I always ask the same question. Okay, do I need to get involved? I'll offer advice. And then I'll always ask, do I need to get involved? No. Your advice is perfect. Then the other person will come to me. Blah, blah, blah. Problem. Okay, here's what I think. This is where you were wrong. This is where you were right. In my opinion, this is how you should approach it. Do I need to get involved? And it's usually not, once you personally experience something, you're required by law to get involved. So for me, it was, for this instance, it was, they blew up in the hallway in front of my office. And so now I've personally experienced, I got to get involved. Naturally. And it would be unlawful for me to not. But when you're talking about trying to to manage conflicts without getting supervision involved, he had some very good points. Because what he's saying is, you have to find a way. I find that a large variety of situations are mismanaged because we have a different internal perception than the person we're conflicting with. And it's really just a matter of, did I say something that offended you, or did I say something that you misunderstood and replied to something that I then misunderstood, and then it's just this ping pong game until now we hate each other.
Mm-hmm. What did you hear? No, what did you hear? What did they hear? And how does that circulate? I'm going through this right now with a complaint that was levied on my reputation over the summer.
Just like Craig from Friday. How you get fired in a day? Over the summer,
I didn't.
I'm sorry. Tell your story.
So, as you know, I'm in the habit now. I didn't always. I worked many summers.
Yeah.
It's good money. It almost feels wrong to work the summer because of how much money they're paying us.
So I'm sorry. Just colloquially, holidays back in the day in the supermarket, because no one wanted to work Thanksgiving, they would pay you triple time, and it was so much more than you made regularly that's all people talked about. So yes, same deal.
So yeah, if they paid me as much as they do during the summer, the whole year, oh my, I'd just be rolling in cash.
So
It would be my pillowcase.
You'd find ways to spend it.
Yeah.
You're a super consumer. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That could be a song. So I didn't even work the summer. It didn't work. And apparently there was one person, or at least one person, that was involved in telling another person, and this person was offended by what the other person told them about what I had said about them.
I love it. I love the water cooler phenomenon.
Or, so I heard it a few ways. I heard it, I went to a meeting, and somebody at that meeting overheard me saying something about one of the coworkers that I have, and then went to their coworker and told them, who then told the person that I work with, who then reported it, and now we have a problem because what they said I said was offensive in nature.
And it's all because of my brother's cousin's wife's sister's former roommate, like in Spaceballs.
Yes.
So good.
Or, I have also heard it this way, because I had to go to a meeting with administration about all of this, and they said that the offensive thing that I was being accused of saying, I said directly to the person who was the reporting party, which is outrageous. It never happened.
The rumor mill makes the waters so muddy.
Or, and this is the most upsetting, the person I trust the most in the workplace was the person who told the reporting party the offensive thing that I was supposedly witnessed saying, and then reported that.
And so that goes back to where we were talking about how knowing people before you engage with them, like really getting to know them. But here's the deal, and this is me. Like I guess I said last episode, I've got one close friend. I've got friends from my grocery days, like people I will associate with and I like. And if they called me, I would talk with them. I would accept an invitation to lunch. I would do these things. If I was interested in what they were doing, I would go out with them. But I only have one real, true friend from 16 years of doing that. And I work with thousands of people. I'm of the opinion that you can be friendly, but that at the end of the day, it's really hard to be friends with people you work with. And then maybe it's just my belief on people in general.
I'm not looking to be friends with the people I'm working with.
But
If that's a byproduct of our relationship or work relationship, then I'm okay with that. I'm not going to put it off. If it's genuine, if it's authentic, if it's real.
But you did develop a relationship where you felt that you could take somebody into confidence.
Yes. And now, at my current workplace, I don't know what to think about anyone.
Yeah. And so I did the same thing many years ago. I was at a store. It was my first mid-level management position. And I made friends with one of the guy. Basically, there's two guys in the same position at most stores. It's the mid-level. And there's me and the other guy. And the other dude was much more friendlier with people. He made friends with everybody, that kind of guy. But I didn't know at the time that he was also kind of playing all the sides so that he could maintain these friendships and make everyone like him. And I said some things to him in confidence that he relayed to another entry-level manager. And our relationship was awful from that point forward, to the point where when she left the store, she actually, she moved, she got married and moved to another district, far away. Our relationship was so strained at that point that when she transferred the keys to me, she did the mid shift and I did the closing shift, that she couldn't even be at the same half of the aisle as me. And she threw the keys, like bowled them down at me and was like, "Hey, fuck you, I'm out. Have a whack life."
Oh my.
And it's
a shame that it has to come to that.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm aware that I was a part of that problem. And maybe if I knew more about conflict resolution like I do now, I could have fixed that. But no, I will never know. I mean, she probably to this day tells stories about this asshat grocery manager.
So that's more with your coworkers, your colleagues.
Yeah.
You're in the same cubicle as somebody, or
We were colleagues. Yeah.
What about supervisors?
So, as a career mid-level manager, I get both sides of it, right?
Yeah, because you are that now, and you were that.
I've always been that. I've always been.
Well, no, you had to work your way up in your previous careers.
Yeah, but I spent so much time in management. I never got super high. I never stayed super low, and now I am the technical lead of my organization, of my group, which is mid-level. Or even entry level, honestly. But yeah, so dealing with supervisors, they expect a certain level of deference. First up, they expect you to treat them with the respect their position demands. And sometimes that demand of respect is a little overbearing and maybe a little unwarranted. But that's
they pay their dues. I deserve this. Show reverence.
I'm the boss. It's like I'm older than you. I know best.
Sure.
Yes. So in dealing with your boss or your supervisor or the people above you, I think that you should treat them more or less like the enemy.
Like an adversary.
Yes. By which I mean, they're not your friend.
Okay, so would you agree with keep your enemies closer?
That's a rabbit hole analogy. But more to the point, what I'm saying is your supervisor is in a higher position than you, so they, by definition, are in a place where they're taking the company's interests more to heart. They're required to think more about the company, and you become less and less of an individual and more of a cog in the machine.
So I would say, yes, that can be true. And it could also be true that the company thinks that that person, that individual, holds the company's interests higher than anything else, even if they don't really. Maybe what they have projected to that point in time leads the company to believe that this is their best option.
They're required by the nature of their position to put off a certain perception. So yeah, you
Sure.
So you could misconstrue the things.
Yeah, that could happen errantly.
But people above you, if they want to be your friend, they're not doing their job as well as they could be, because you cannot. I mean, it's a caste system, the bureaucracy of management. You cannot befriend the people you are meant to give instructions to. You cannot do that, and I learned that the hard way because I was young and dumb. I mean that it's just.
You can't flirt with your boss.
And I have worked at places where I had to separate people, and by separating I mean transfer them to different stores, because a manager got into it with a bagger, and the rumor mill muddied the water, and shit went sideways. You cannot, and so you're supposed to know that. They're supposed to know that. So whenever you've got this lateral connection, this friendly connection, it's either they're trying to be friendly because it's part of their job, or there's a problem. So I always think that you should always treat people above you with nothing but pure professionalism.
That can definitely change industry to industry, though. That standard. I mean, the standard shouldn't shift, but we know it does.
Yeah, and I mean, I worked in retail. It's a bunch of high school educated people just trying to get by. And so yes, I saw a lot of upper management and people below them fraternizing, and it never ended well. You know,
Take a look at this.
Colleagues love you, coworkers love you. There's a flirtatiousness. Another word for that is chemistry. There's a chemistry between the people you work with.
And by the way, not to take anything away from
is that
my
Kevin Spacey?
accountability for things
It
I
is.
did where I got it wrong, I crossed the line, I pushed some boundaries. I accept all of that. But I live in an industry in which flirtation, attraction, people meeting in the workspace and ending up marrying each other and having children. And so it is a space and a place where these notions of family, these notions of attraction, these notions of it's always complicated if you meet someone in the workspace and find yourselves attracted to each other. You have to be mindful of that, and you have to be very mindful that you don't ever want anyone to feel that their job is in jeopardy, or you would punish them in some way if they no longer wanted to be with you. So those are important things to just acknowledge.
So his perspective, while it is rooted in Hollywood, is a great example of management hierarchy, and how so the best managers I ever worked for were the most distant, standoffish, professional people. You know, because you get high enough and you're like, you know, I can be cool with you. We can be friendly. We cannot be friends. And that's the only way you can look at. So if you have a supervisor who you don't really click with, that you don't really understand, that people kind of talk shit on, but they're not like blatantly burning the corner of the building down, they're probably the best manager you've had.
Okay, but let's say you're exceptional, you're good, and your
You don't
manager.
have to say it. I'm sorry.
Cheers to that. You're great. You're great at what you do,
Okay.
and it's recognized.
Okay.
And someone wants to groom you for the next step.
Okay.
You are going to take this position in the future, or you're going to be my replacement. That's going to take time.
Yeah.
What they are going to have to pour into you, and the amount of time it's going to take for you to learn everything that they know, they're going to have to download everything they have. They're going to have to upload it all to you, right? Some people are going to think, oh, wait a second, what's going on? Is there favoritism here? This is unfair. This isn't equitable. Are they in a relationship, whoever they may be? That's you can't escape that those optics are going to be there.
Yes, but those optics, what they are in reality is you're starting to see the separation. You are putting in the time, work, and effort to be mentored by somebody who above you, and you are starting to gravitate towards that celestial body and away from the general staff. So you have to allow the people that you're leaving behind to be bitter and to talk shit and to not understand what's going on. Because eventually you're going to be in that position and it's going to be irrelevant. So yes, so I've been mentored by a lot of people in my life. And I've never felt chummy with any of the ones that I really learned from. Great example.
Mentored professionally.
Yeah, and not just so back when I was doing the video cookbook and I was in my first live band, this is 2003, 2004. We used to do karaoke and stuff. Woo. There was a guy, and he's still around. He's an entertainer. He has an entertainment company. He does just weddings and karaoke and he's and he has like a live musical production that he does. He offered me a job once years ago, and I turned him down because I was too scared to leave what I was doing. But he taught me so many things about being personable, about being charismatic, about being professional in an artistic environment. But we were never friends. He was always somebody that I looked up to, that I respected, and he never once was like, "Hey, come chum with me." And that helped our relationship. The people around us may have seen something different, but it's just the nature of the beast, because you're being pulled in one direction and they're stuck here. You have to let that happen. If you want to grow, not everybody wants to grow. Not everybody wants to grow. People like being here, like being stuck, like being able to complain about their lives, like being able to be stuck where they're at. They're comfortable. They're being paid. They're living lives. Things are great. Bettering yourself, especially in a professional environment, the first thing you have to do is distance yourself from the people that you have grown to know and love and admire and are friends with, because you can no longer be that person. And that's what moving up is.
I think I experienced that when I went into the management team in my last agency. I got hazed.
Yeah.
Everyone I was working alongside, everyone.
Yeah.
Had a meeting, I was leading it, and then it was an uproar. They were arguing, side talk. Yeah. Hey, let's focus. Get everyone focused. Yeah. Everyone was arguing. It's like, what is happening? Like, this never happens before. And I think that was their way of sending me off.
Yes.
Like, you've moved on. Yeah. You're in the management team now. We are not with you, and we have to show it. And here you go.
And that's the greatest compliment you can receive, because it can go completely awry. I've always been a firm believer, especially in groceries, if you get promoted, you have to get transferred. Have to. You can't become the boss of the people that you were hanging out and pounding beers with.
In education, it's that way too.
Yeah.
The teacher to administration, new site.
But the takeaway is, my belief is that supervision, they are on a different level. You can climb those stairs to their level, but you gotta leave the floor that you're on where the flat floor is. For sure.
All right. Well, we started this new journey to your new job. You're in it.
You've been promoted twice.
And what happens at the end?
To be continued.
I guess we will get to that next time.